Have you ever thought about what your community used to look like, or how it was formed? The communities surrounding us have so much rich history that has been forgotten or even purposefully erased. Let's dive in. In its earlier days, Highland Park's southern tip, also referred to as Chestnut Hill Plateau, which was an early name for the neighborhood, was where middle-class and upper-class citizens of Richmond drove streetcars, and the location was considered the suburb of the city of Richmond. The development of this land, initially a farm owned by prominent Richmond resident Samuel Duval in 1714, did not truly start until 1890. During the Reconstruction period from 1861 to the 1900s, which was the historical period in which the United States grappled with the question of how to integrate millions of newly freed African Americans into social, political, and labor systems after the Civil War. A lot of soldiers, mainly white, took their earnings and financial awards and came back to Richmond, specifically Highland Park, because it had the largest remaining stock of Queen Anne-style homes. Highland Park was a very prominent community in the mid-1800s, but around the Civil War and Jim Crow era, the area declined when white flight happened, which is when flocks of white people were moving out of certain communities because of the rising population of minorities moving in. There was also redlining that took place, which was when banks would not lend money to people who were purchasing homes where there were predominantly black people. Banks took a red line and drew a map throughout Richmond and all these other communities where blacks wanted to be in an attempt to restrict black people from being homeowners. In the early 1900s, black people eventually moved in and became homeowners. And when white flight took place, the community still thrived because black people were still earning money and had successful businesses within their community. In the mid-1900s, there was an area in Highland Park, North Avenue, and the Boulevard, where the community was bustling with businesses such as barbershops, cleaners, small grocery stores, dentist offices, bakeries, and even a movie theater. Unfortunately, by the early 1970s to 1990s, Richmond had an increase in crime rate, so that area became crime-ridden. A lot of drugs were being sold in that area and many illegal activities were occurring. Homes around Highland Park were being subsidized, and of course, where there is poverty, typically there is going to be crime as well. Through this, Highland Park started becoming known for a lot of crime, and this caused even more people to leave, which then convinced banks not to lend money to businesses, so then grocery stores were not built, and the banks that were there left, and there were no longer any pillars of community. This made the Highland Park community less desirable, a complete food desert, and overall led the community to have a lack of resources. As of the year 2023, the gentrification of the Highland Park community has occurred, which is a process in which poor urban areas are changed by wealthier people moving in, improving housing, and attracting new businesses. As the non-blacks are moving in, the businesses are coming back and has become a more desirable area. This has led Highland Park to becoming a melting pot of different races, which is great. However, the cost of living in the area has skyrocketed. The price increase of housing has caused black people to be pushed out and has kept them from moving in. If only we could find a way to invest in this community to where it would cause more money to be funneled into the area so that it could be built back up and attract more diversity of business and people without kicking the generations of black people out. And now for a testimonial from Pastor Sterling Burden III, who is my uncle and is the pastor of Founding City Church, located in the Highland Park community, speaking about his experience growing up in Highland Park.
Your great-grandmother owned property there, and she had a beautiful home there. And so her home used to allow all of the family to come, and it was 3 stories, and we would come and have picnics and cookouts in her backyard all over the house, and it was beautiful, and it was immaculate, And so that's a really good place, in your life, because a lot of your family lived there.
Highland Park still faces adversity to this day, like it's still not having a single grocery store, high crime rates, and drug abuse. In an effort to contribute to the community, I volunteered during the summer with Founding City Church and the North Outreach Center to feed the less fortunate and connect the community to resources like substance abuse help, food assistance programs, and churches. We have found that our efforts to help have been impactful to the community, being that some individuals are now members of my church. Lastly, topics such as redlining and white flight haven't even been mentioned in schools. And yes, that is a problem. The lack of Black history taught in schools has inspired me to participate in clubs that promote school change like Equity Ambassadors, in an effort to convince schools to educate students on the history of groups of minorities that is found in our communities, instead of trying to hide it, so that future generations will not forget Black history, and only then will future generations be able to recognize the inequities Black people still face to this day. Thank you.